It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin, and we are talking about week 9 of college football.
Yeah, we are. And the season feels like it's taken shape and we kind of have a real idea of what everything is. We have this large sample size. We're beyond midseason. A lot of these guys have, 8, 9 games under their belt. And I feel like we can start to make a little bit more generalized statements about this class, maybe start to talk a little bigger picture while we're breaking down week to week of what this might mean actually for the year 2026 like dynasty draft and what this might mean for the NFL draft, and start to kind of project a little further out because we have a little more of an idea of what this is.
Yeah, right before we started, I was saying I'm starting to get a little bit more excited about this class. It has a lot to do with the wide receiver position. The wide receiver group is starting to take shape and starting to climb, starting to show a little bit more than what it showed in the summer. The rest of it, or I shouldn't say the rest of it, the running back
The running
class
backs, man.
in particular, I'm like, oh, we're still kind of waiting to see. It's like, well, we can't wait too much longer.
Yeah, exactly. We're sitting here and it's like we got 5 more weeks of the regular season and then it's playoffs and bowl games and whatever, and you got to kind of figure it out at that point, and getting pretty late early, I would say.
So in that sense, the 26 running back crew is probably going to end up as advertised, which is not great, but it is exciting that this wide receiver class has taken a bit of a step forward. We're going to talk about some of those wide receivers, hand out some badges to them today. We're also going to talk about this tight end class, which is also maybe a kind of a nice little surprise here as well. So there are definitely parts of this 2026 draft class that have definitely improved over the course of this season and are looking better than they were in the summer. So it's not quite as doom and gloomy as it was when we talked about it in August.
Yeah,
But
we said like names are going to present themselves, guys are going to rise up the board. We're going to find some names as we go throughout the season. That has happened in the wide receiver class. On the other side of things, maybe we'll see with some of the guys we talk about today.
well, speaking of the wide receiver class, our first badge is going to a wide receiver that has helped himself, I would say, considerably throughout this season.
Yeah, we got Denzel Boston to start here, the wide receiver out of Washington. Talked about him a few times this year. Played Illinois this week, had 13 targets, 10 catches, a buck 53, and a touchdown. He's getting the dip on his chip badge because this guy was running after the catch a little bit. And that's something that we don't really see with this player. His previous high in yards after catching a game is 32. This game he had 88 yards after the catch. So this is something that we kind of wanted to see out of Denzel Boston. So we talked about him as this pure X receiver that could win on the boundary, that could win in jump ball situations, that could separate vertically maybe a little bit, that wasn't an incredible separator. But in this game against Illinois, against a solid defense, I would say, was separating pretty good, getting the ball in his hands and making guys miss. And you look at that, and he had the most missed tackles forced that he's had all season with only 3, but he only had 3 prior all year. So doubles that number there. Just a really fun game to watch out of a player. I think the best performance out of any of our draft class guys, which is why I selected him first in this, is like, man, complete performance from a player that I just didn't know that he had it in him.
Yeah, incredible game from Boston. I mean, a career high day for him against Illinois. This has been one of the biggest reasons why this wide receiver group is looking much better. It's because a player like Boston, who was intriguing to me in the summer, has clearly taken his game to a different level this season, and you're seeing it here manifest in his best performance of the year and of his college career in week 9. And what you also saw in this game We talk about the yak. That's something new. You also saw what he does very well, which is make another ridiculous touchdown catch in this game. This one was impressive. I don't even know that it was in his top 3 on the year, though. I mean, we talked about him in the midseason show. Like he has a season's worth of highlight reel touchdown catches already this season through only 6 games at that time. He's adding more on a weekly basis. So he is, yeah, he's having a hell of a year. He was in our moved up to the first round when we checked in on the midseason rankings episode, and I don't know, he might still be climbing by the time we're done by the end of the season.
Amen.
Well, speaking of the tight end class, one of 2 tight end badges this week. First one going to Justin Joly from North Carolina State. In the summer, Joly was my number 5 tight end coming into the year. He's having a solid season. This was easily his best game of the season against Pittsburgh. He had 6 catches on 7 targets for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns. Previously, his high this year was 63 yards. So this is a player that's having a good year. We've talked a little bit about this with other tight ends. Like, they're not all going to be Warren. They're not all going to be Bowers in terms of stacking up big receiving performances. Joly's having another good season, but you really got to see, him kind of on full display in this game. And he is getting the team on the back badge from me because he also had a ridiculous play in this one. Very reminiscent, dare I say, identical to the Greg Jennings Madden play where he is limping down the field but gets into the end zone. That's exactly what happened. He caught it was a trick play, and he literally limped for like 30 yards, got into the end zone, scored. So I mean, a gritty performance, a great performance. It was a great week for Joly.
Yeah, someone was saying that his hamstring fell off the bone on that play. He kept going.
But here's the thing: he was limited at practice today. Like, he's fine.
Yeah, so. Right. Yeah, another notch in the, like, if it looks bad, it's not that bad injury evaluation camp. Yeah, just a good player, a fun player. Doesn't play like a 263-pound tight end. He's listed at 6'3", 263. I don't know if it's the number 7 that does it for him, but he feels like a more agile, a faster tight end. Having, like you said, a nice season. Nothing that's like gonna make nothing that's gonna rival any of these guys that have been in the past, but also not the archetype that we see with some of these receiving tight ends that come through that are 230, that are just basically a slot receiver that's moved into tight end because they're like 6'5". A real tight end that is going to chip and get out. Doesn't line up in line a ton, but I think he could. He does it about 40% of the time. Didn't do it a lot in this game, but yeah, a fun player that is a good athlete that probably could get the ball a little more in this NC State offense, and that's exemplified in this performance against Pitt.
Yeah, you bring up the weight, and I do want to talk about that because I was just going back in my summer notes because I was like 263. That doesn't seem right. He was listed at 251 in the summer, and so
that feels more accurate.
But this was a player also that was very known for his ability after the catch. He had spent, we talked about this in the summer, but it's been a little while now. He spent 2 years at UConn. He was kind of a prolific yak tight end during his time at UConn. Missed tackles, force numbers 10, 18, 12 leading up to this season. I mean, he was an elusive player. He was a smaller tight end, though, and that was part of it. And over the course of 4 years, he has apparently added a pretty significant amount of weight. I don't know that it's actually 263 out there, but I mean, if they're listing him at that size, he's clearly gained 20 to 30 pounds since his sophomore season, is kind of his breakout year at UConn. So he's added a lot of weight. He is playing in line more often. 43% is not a ton. That is a career high for him in line. So it seems like the role is kind of shifting for him. The build is shifting a little bit, and still he's finding ways to contribute on the as a receiver. So maybe looking to kind of diversify his game ahead of his NFL career, make himself a little more attractive in that case. And yeah, you see it this week. He's not sacrificing anything as a receiver to do it.
Yeah, we definitely need some tight ends. I think it's like standouts in this class. I think there's a lot of like, oh, this is a interesting player for this tight end class, and Joly is another one of those that's like, man, we kind of like just see what round he gets drafted in. Let's just see what team he goes to because I'm interested.
Another player that I'm a little bit interested to see what round he gets drafted in the NFL draft.
Is Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes had another nice game in a rivalry game against Michigan State. I don't know if it's still a rivalry game when Michigan State's like this bad, but I don't think Michigan's like the cream of the crop like they were when they were cheating. So he had 152 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and a fumble. He's getting the 2020 badge because I just really like his vision. It feels like he's finding seams. He's finding, the holes that are presented to him, which sometimes, pretty easy, sometimes not so easy. He's got to get skinny, find 4 or 5 yards, and he does that really well. Still averaging 7.1 yards per carry. This game had his 1 fumble on the season. Didn't end up being a factor in the game. Still, yeah, being an efficient runner, 73 yards after contact of his 152, 3 missed tackles forced in this game, up to 24 on the season, which again is nothing like eye-popping, but it's still pretty good. Like when we're looking at this running back class, you kind of take what you can get, and this was a pretty solid performance. He, on both his touchdowns, he had one that was a longer run. The second one, everything gets clogged up, bounces outside, just beats everybody to the pylon. So I am definitely keeping an eye on Justice Haynes. He's moved himself comfortably into like my, top of my running back rankings, I would say, into my like first round just because of scarcity maybe, but he's also been putting together a bunch of really good performances this year. Has 100 yards in every game but one.
Yeah, just keep stacking these games one on top of the other. And like you said, I mean, when we talked about him on the midseason rankings update, I mean, he's sneaking into the first round here. Part of that is a little bit of a positional bump because there really is not a running back, behind Love and Coleman that we're really excited about in this class. He's kind of the next guy up right now. The numbers that you refer to there, the yards after the contact, the missed tackles force, like all of it's just kind of fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of what I came away when I watched a little bit of his film from this year. Like, despite these gaudy numbers that he's putting up, like he's kind of just fine. Like he's a fine player. He's a running back that has a little bit of power, little bit of a elusiveness, but like it's not none of it really stands out. And he's also not a standout pass catcher. So that's where the comment that I made when we started this was about where does the NFL take a player like this when he doesn't have kind of those, standout traits and he doesn't have a pass catching skill set that he's showing you in college at least. So it'll be curious to see. I feel like just drawing from our previous experience here, players like this one, I would anticipate being more of like a round 3 type of a pick in the NFL draft. If he's going to sneak into day 2, it's probably going to be there right around, pick 75 to 100. So
I would agree with that. I think that he's probably in that range just because he's not like a superb athlete and he's not a dynamic pass catcher. He's just a nice solid running back that can get you like 4 or 5 yards every time he touches the ball. and probably has to play behind a pretty solid offensive line. Like, he's not making guys miss behind the line of scrimmage. He had a designed screen for him in this game, and I was like, oh, he's catching passes. And I look at the stat book, and it's like 3 catches for 19 yards, and that was the one that went for any decent yardage. It's like, oh, never mind. No, nothing to write home about. But still, yeah, like you said, in a class where you're kind of, any port in a storm, Justice Haynes will work.
Amen to that. Let's go back to the wide receiver class, which is very fun and exciting, like the running back class. And we're talking about a player that was a top 12 player for you at the midseason point, and that is Chris Brazzell II from Tennessee, getting another badge here.
I
at
like
Camp
it when
Dynasty.
they do the second instead of junior.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Yeah,
like
spice it up a
anybody
little
can
bit.
be junior, but
The Roman numerals on the jersey looks cool.
Yep, exactly. So he's getting some style points for that, but he's also getting some style points for how he plays the wide receiver position. He's getting the Ferrari badge from me this week because he's just like 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye, flying down the field. He had total stat line in this one was 4 catches on 7 targets for 138 yards and a touchdown against Kentucky. 3 of those 4 catches were deep bomb plays. The first being a post for a touchdown where he was easily over the top in the back of the end zone. And then you have 2 go routes. Both go for big gains. Both he is yards of separation beyond the corner down the sideline. So we've talked about Brazzell. We talked about him at the midseason point, the size, speed combination, and no, he's not just Jalen Hyatt in this Tennessee offense. He has a little bit more wiggle, a little bit more fluidity at this size. He's offering you a little bit more as a route runner, but primarily what he does is take the top off of a defense, and he's showing you it again this week.
Yeah, I like this player a lot. I think that there's a pretty high upside with Brazzell. I really love how he separates late in these like deep routes, because this is what really good receivers do. Really good vertical receivers do is they'll hand fight with this corner all the way while they're tracking the ball, while they're in stride, and they'll give you that little, like, they'll get their hands free, give it a little push off, and catch it over the breadbasket and over their shoulder. And it's like, this is kind of like the high level stuff he's doing. And, maybe it works against Kentucky, and we'll see what that looks like in the NFL. But I like him as a deep threat. I like what he does as like an underneath receiver too, even though he doesn't get a ton of those opportunities because he's so prolific as a pass catcher and because of Tennessee's unique offense. So I really just enjoy watching him play, and I enjoy, seeing what he's going to do week to week, because he can put together these crazy stat lines. And maybe he is just this player in the NFL too, where he's kind of that frustrating player to start in fantasy, where he's either going to catch a 60-yard touchdown and have, 110 yards on 3 catches and a touchdown, or he's going to have, 2 catches on 5 targets for 20 yards. And it's like, maybe he's a little frustrating, but I think that he's got a ton of upside.
Yeah, he'll be a situational one, I think, for me at the end of the day. Like, where does he end up in the draft, more so than, being a situation proof player. But yeah, I agree.
You know how we keep like asking the Bills to get wide receivers?
Here he is.
Well, my question is, like, is the Bills a good landing spot anymore? Like, guys keep going there, and it keeps being like, oh, they just kind of, it's kind of like the Packers. Like, we want guys to go to the Packers, but they just kind of throw it to a different guy every game.
I feel like it's because they just haven't found the right guy yet.
Sure.
Like the post Diggs era of that team, like Keon Coleman.
Yeah, had one
Jury's
good week.
Still out, but
yeah. I mean, week 1, we were all there.
So yeah, we saw it.
But yeah, I was just thinking,
Shakir is like the best thing that they've had, and he's like the slot guy.
Right.
So Brazzell, get him outside, let Josh uncork it.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, man, it'd be really nice for him to go. Who's a wide receiver needy team that could use a 6'5" speedster? And I was like, man, the Bills. That'd be kind of sick.
Interesting. All right. Well, now that I'm dreaming about this Bills Brazzell fanfic that you've created, who's up next?
Next is Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas. This is number 0 that you see on the screen that's disrupting every single play. If you're watching Texas, Mississippi State, had 12 pressures earlier yesterday. Now they brought it back down. Only 9 pressures for an off-ball linebacker. 2 sacks, 2 QB hits, 5 QB hurries, along with 4 solo tackles and 2 assisted tackles. So that chalks up to a pretty solid fantasy day, I would say. Just everywhere in this game. I don't know if wearing number 0 on the Texas defense makes you like a maniac that is like a heat-seeking missile to the ball, but it's working pretty well for Anthony Hill, who's 6'3", about 240, so about the right size for an NFL off-ball linebacker these days. And when I say he was disrupting every single play, I mean it. Like there was a 4th and inches, and he just like came up and stonewalled the center. So the running back had to bounce it, and he gets tackled for a loss. He's reading this flat route where he comes up on the play action and then just beelines it to the flat route, and then it's incomplete because the quarterback has to like throw it at a different angle so Hill doesn't bat it down. And then he's also making the obvious plays where he's coming, he's like getting a lick on the QB. So just a really fun linebacker that you can tell is all over the place.
Yeah, it's funny because we gave Hill a badge last week, and I said the Ohio State guys are kind of stealing the limelight a little bit from him. And he had a massive like tackle performance last week. He's kind of filling up the stat sheet a little bit, had an interception. One thing he didn't have was the pass rush stats, and he really hasn't been a disruptive rusher this season at all. His previous high in the game is 3 pressures. He had not had a sack up until this week. And so you talk about a player like Arvell Reese, who's playing multiple alignments and playing as an edge rusher at Ohio State. Hill is a great athlete in his own right, and it was kind of interesting to me that he wasn't, being utilized as a rusher, or at least getting, into the backfield more often because of that skill set. And then all of a sudden, the very next week, here he is with 9 pressures, 2 sacks, and he only lined up on the line 4 times in this game. Like, this was not because they suddenly deployed him as a 50-50 edge guy. Like, he was doing this from the linebacker position. So showing you a little bit of versatility there as a rusher. That's really exciting to see. It's really exciting to see that he's starting to stack up some performances here in the middle of the season, because like we talked about last week, he's getting overshadowed. But let's not forget about the caliber of player that Anthony Hill Jr. is. And he's reminding us all why he belongs in this sort of high second, mid-second Dynasty rookie consideration conversation.
Yeah, I'd love to see him as like a weak side linebacker that's filling gaps, coming down, scraping, rather than trying to like set an edge or like blow up a fullback. I want to see him coming downhill, blitzing, being the maybe not as like, he could be the green dot and he could be the Mike and like do all that stuff. I think he'd be fine at that, but I think he'd be better deployed as somebody who has like, just go get him, man. Like, just go get downhill, fill gaps, try to get tackles for losses, like be aggressive. And then we're also going to, you're going to be our weak side blitzer where you're coming off and getting pressures like he did in this game. A little like Greenlaw-esque when he was with the Niners, where you have, the other guy that's doing, a lot of the coverage stuff, and he's calling the plays, and he's managing the front side, and then you get to fill these gaps when this running back cuts back and lay the lumber.
Uh, we're still talking about tight ends
Yeah, another one. I was shocked.
because what a week for these guys. And another player here that is getting his first badge of the season. He was I believe, an honorable mention type of a name in the summer. And this is Tanner Koziol. Uh, he's coming over from Ball State, and he had a ridiculous season at Ball State last year of 840 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's how he got his name onto the map. That's why we were talking about him in the summer. That's why he originally committed to play at Wisconsin in the transfer portal, and then understood what was happening at Wisconsin and was like, I'm going to go to Houston instead. So that's where he is. And he is having another great season. The jump in competition level has not really affected him all that much. And this week was easily his best game of the season against Arizona State, a ranked opponent. 7 catches, 10 targets, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Koziol, I mentioned, I believe, when we did briefly touch on him in the summer, 6'7", 250. Like, he is a skyscraper, and he was moving like a skyscraper when I watched his last year at Ball State. It was a lot of, you are clearly the biggest, one of the most athletic players on the field. We're just going to throw you the ball as much as physically possible. And that's what it was. He looks more nimble now. Like, I was impressed watching him in this game. He didn't really look like he was lumbering out there. They got him out on a couple of wheel routes. He made 2 really nice plays on those routes, both leaping grabs, one of which he got absolutely smoked on and stayed on his feet. It was like it didn't even phase him. It was crazy. It looked like he was going to get yak on that play. Like, the defender comes down and hit sticks him. He moves back like a full half yard and then is just like, oh, never mind, I'm still up. And then he just starts running forward again. So, I mean, but his calling card really is this frame and this catch point talent, because in this one, mention the 2 leaping grabs there. He also had a nice touchdown catch in this one. He beat zone coverage, slipped behind 2 zone defenders, and toe tapped one in the back of the end zone. He was 3 for 3 on contested catches in this game. He's 15 for 19 in contested catches on the season. Like, this is a player at 6'7" that is like a legitimate nightmare mismatch type of a player. I mean, last season at Ball State, he was 26 for 40 on contested catches, 15 for 19 this year. I mean, I don't know what this is going to look like at the NFL level, but like, this is a red zone tight end at the very least. This is the guy that you get in your red zone packages and you just try to throw the ball up and let him make a play, because he's still doing it here at Houston.
Yeah, I was really impressed. His ball skills are pretty sick for somebody that's this big. He almost looks uncoordinated, just like by nature of, like, he's kind of gangly. 250 pounds isn't a lot of weight on a 6'7" frame. So you kind of look at him and you're like, he doesn't look very athletic. Like, I was just like having trouble. And then he goes up and just like, does a little fake block, wheels out, contested catch, bodies the guy over the top. And it's like, oh, all right, this is a real player. And then he just does it over and over again. So yeah, this is absolutely like a red zone tight end that, it would be nicer if he maybe put some weight on the lower half and became like more of a yak threat, so then you can have him in more than just, or if he's like a more powerful blocker. I feel like he's pretty high in his stance a lot, which he's 6'7", so like, what are you gonna do? But yeah, I think that this is like a really cool player that could be like a a real tight end if you bulk up a little bit and become like a blocker and a yak threat, plus this like insane contested catch stuff.
Oh, I did a Houston Dynasty on college football 26, and Koziol was like a 1,400-yard player.
There
Like
it is.
you just throw it up to him and just let him
Hold triangle.
platinum 50-50 and just go crazy. But all right, couple more badges, and do we have a running back again?
We have a running back. I don't remember if we've talked about him. I don't remember if we talked about him week 2.
So I had the same thought, and I went back to check, and we talked about his teammate,
Okay.
Damari Alston.
All right. I remember talking about an Auburn running back, but I couldn't remember if it was Cobb or not. But we're talking about Jeremiah Cobb, who is getting the burner badge in this game for his performance against Arkansas. He had 28 carries, which is by far a season high. He had 153 yards, didn't find the end zone, but the 5'11", 200 pounds, really fast. This is a player that gets up to speed in a hurry too. Not a bad pass catcher, not their preferred pass catching running back. They sub him out normally on third downs, but he had a couple catches in this game for 19 yards, and he looked pretty natural as a pass catcher. I liked him in space, making guys miss. He had 87 yards after contact, and he had a few missed tackles. He had 2 missed tackles forced. He has 21 on the season, so that's right around the number that like Justice Haynes has on 10 less touches. So that we're talking about an Auburn running back. He's got a ton of juice. He has 4 100-yard games on the season on the ground, a few 50-plus on top of that. So I was just kind of impressed because it doesn't take a lot to impress me with this running back class because, like we were talking about with Justice Haynes, you kind of take what you can get. But I was watching this performance and I was like, hey, man, this might actually be like somebody that could be like a third down back, maybe a pass catching back that works himself into more of an every down role if he can become, a more consistent guy on the ground with because I think his vision's a little iffy. I think he is a better outside the tackles. He feels more like one of those, athletic speed runners rather than a guy that you're going to pound between the tackles, 28 times like they did this game against Arkansas. But he kind of showed that he can handle it. So I just thought this was more of a well-rounded performance than he's had so far this season. Also played more. He played 42 snaps, which was by far a season high.
Yeah, Alston was the player that we talked about in week 1, like you said, or week 2, whenever that was, and he got hurt after that. So it was week 1 because he got hurt, missed weeks 2 and 3, and in that time, Cobb kind of broke out. Like it was Alston leading the way in week 1, then week 2, week 3, Cobb has 121 and 119. And so Alston came back. The workload kind of dipped back down again. Now you kind of see things ramping up. I think Alston's missing more time right now as well. So it's like every time you get this guy on the field and give him a sizable workload, he's turning it into kind of big numbers this season. So he is a true junior. So this is also one of those instances where maybe he blazes down the stretch here and it's soft running back class. Maybe you mix it up a little bit, you get yourself into the class, or maybe this is just that sort of a player that ends up on a 2027 watch list.
Damn it.
I mean, I'm not.
No, I know. You're probably right. But I'm just like, we need people in this class, damn it.
How many times have we said the phrase like maybe they go back and get in this 2027 class? I mean,
they're not gonna have too many players for the 2027 draft class.
Save your fourths for 2027. All right, that leaves one, huh?
Leaves one.
I'm low-key excited about this one. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this for the exact reason that we just talked about, because I don't know that this player is going to be in the 2026 class. However, it's becoming impossible to ignore what Chase Hendricks is doing for the Ohio Bobcats this season. Chase Hendricks on the year, first of all, 812 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. This is number 3 in college football right now. This week at Eastern Michigan, 10 catches, 12 targets, 119, 2 touchdowns. This is his 6th game this season of 100 or more receiving yards. That leads all of college football. Nobody has more than Chase Hendricks does. And so I've kind of been like, obviously this name shows up every single week, basically, when we're doing our badge draft and like, who do we want to pick? And you see this player at Ohio that has like 140 yards every week, it seems like. It's like he's a true junior. Okay, he's probably not going to be in the class, like whatever. I don't know if he is, but I turned on what I could find. I barely could find this game. Like I barely found any clips from this Eastern Michigan game. But what I did find was some film out there from his game against West Virginia earlier this season, in which he had 8 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. He's kind of twitched up. I mean, he's 6 foot 203. This is not like a small, max slot guy that's just racking it up. Like he is playing in the slot.
You taking shots at Malachi Corley?
I
Is that what that was?
Just a little stray, sorry. The Browns leading rusher this week, by the way, Malachi Corley.
Damn right. 1 carry, 21 yards, get him the rock.
But so 6 foot 203. This is he moved into the slot this year. So this is new. He's playing like 90% in the slot this year, 92%. So almost exclusively in the slot. And he is making the most out of it. And he's a little twitchy. He's got a little bit of yak ability to him. Like he's winning down the field. He had a catch against Ohio State earlier this season where he took the top off the defense and then made a guy. And I didn't look. It was a safety. I don't think it was Kaleb Downs because I feel like we would have heard more about it.
Number 4 overall pick, Kaleb Downs, getting sauced up by Chase Hendricks.
Like an Ohio State defender had hands on him and couldn't get him to the ground, and he finished the play for a touchdown. So I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, true junior. I think at the worst, this is a transfer portal commodity that ends up at a big school next year and gets a chance to prove himself as a legitimate NFL draft prospect. But that being said, if he finishes this season at the pace that he's going right now, I honestly think there's a chance he does declare early and go into this draft class.
I'm in if he does it. Like he's going to end up being, one of those late 4th, 5th round wide receivers if he ends up in this draft, just because like he's at Ohio, where it's like, those guys just don't end up going high in the draft because I don't know if you don't value that kind of production, but whatever the reasoning is, I kind of get it because like you're doing it against weaker competition, whatever.
You know who just because I thought about this. You know who did go high out of the MAC?
Tell me.
Corey Davis.
Ooh.
So maybe there was a lesson there.
Yeah, everybody was like, yeah, let's not do this again. But yeah, I mean, watching these highlights, first of all, what are we doing with a gray field? Eastern Michigan. Let's get it together here. Like the Boise State thing, let it be unique. Let them have the blue field. We don't need to do gray. Like it just looks like we're playing in black and white almost. But I was shocked by Chase Hendricks' movement. Like he just looks, and he probably is, just way more athletic than anybody else on this field. With the way he's just like almost teleporting like side to side in this game. He's also returning punts. Like they're just trying to get him the ball however they can. He caught one that was like over like the one that you get told not to catch, where it bounces behind you. He chases it down, catches it, and like wheels around, makes like 5 guys miss, and it's just like really playing on rookie mode. And I it's just a really fun watch. I am like excited to see if he decides to come out and be a real like asset in this 2026 draft, but I could very much see him transferring to, like one of these, I don't know, like a big school. Like I don't think he's going to end up at like Alabama or Georgia, but if he's like at Maryland or like Arizona or something, and he can just put up 1,200 yards by being the number one slot receiver on a power school, like that would be kind of sick.
Would be pretty sick.
Next, Stephon Diggs, but faster.
That's what I'm saying, man. I don't know. I was
It
feeling
kind
some
of reminds
things.
me of Kadarius Toney,
Don't
which
say
I know
that.
that's not a compliment, but like maybe hopefully like with like all his brain cells intact.
Dude, you know who he reminded me of? Amon-Ra St. Brown.
All right, he's way faster than Amon-Ra.
No, have you noticed that everybody is Amon-Ra now? That's the new one. Remember when everybody was
I
Debo and
do,
then everybody
yeah.
was T. Higgins? Now everybody is Amon-Ra.
I like that.
I forget I saw one on Twitter today. Somebody was like, I think this is the next Amon-Ra. And it was like a rookie. Oh, God, I wish I could. I'll have to find it
It'll
because
be
I was blown
JSN.
away. I
It'll
was
be
just like,
JSN soon enough.
was it Jaylin Noel? I don't know. Somebody was like, this is the next Amon-Ra. And I was like, I don't know what we're doing anymore. But
Also, whoever cut up this Ohio Bobcats versus Eastern Michigan, appreciate it. You're bad at that.
so I couldn't even find it.
Yeah.
The algorithm was beating it down.
Keep working on your craft. I appreciate you, but you got some work to do.
Well, there's more people that have some work to do. And that's the point of the program that we're at right now, where we have to tell them about the work that they need to do. Let's make the call home. I'm not calling a player this week. Screw it. There's only one person in the college football ecosystem that deserves a call home this week. And it's Brian Kelly. The disgraced former coach of LSU. I mean, okay, so I feel like we've done something like this before where we've called a coach. I honestly feel like we may have called Brian Kelly once before. That's the kind of personality that he is. I feel like
call them for the Southern accent. Hey, man, don't do that.
Yeah. But obviously Brian Kelly has been the story for the last few days with his firing and all of the shenanigans and all of the reports coming out about how terrible of a human being he is and all of that. But there is a piece of this that I think goes into this 2026 class as well, and that is this LSU offense and the players on it that we were looking at in terms of being 2026 draft prospects. And at the top of that list is the quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, who was one of our higher ranked quarterbacks coming into this season. We both had our concerns with Nussmeier's game. He was not a, like, we didn't have him at 1, 2, 3 type of stuff, but he was kind of in the back half of that, the back end of that top 5. And it's been a pretty disappointing season for Nussmeier. This is one of the players that is wrapped up in this like transformation of the 2026 quarterback class, where guys like Nussmeier are falling by the wayside as new guys are taking their place. And this week at Texas A&M, 22 of 35 for 168 and a touchdown. His lowest marks in terms of passing yardage on the season. And obviously this is the game that leads to Brian Kelly's firing. So, I mean, I don't know if if we can, sit here and blame the LSU players and their kind of struggles this season. There's a few wide receivers we were looking at as well. Like Nick Anderson's been a name that's been around for a while. He's having a very disappointing season. It's been a really bad year for LSU, just period. So when you look at these players now, are you expecting maybe to see a little bit of a post Brian Kelly bump from these guys down the stretch?
I don't know. Like I hope so. If he's that much of like a locker room cancer, where uh, Kelly's got his hands in everything. I mean, he's like the CEO of this whole operation. Where SEC coaches are this, where they manage, they coach, they recruit. Like they're everything. And so, do I expect this to change anything in the short term? I don't know. Like I feel like it's hard to, with basically 5 weeks left in the season, to turn everything around. But I'm sure the culture will be better. I'm sure the attitude will be better. We'll see if like the coaching is. I think that I think the coaching will be better, but I don't know. Like that's kind of maybe a next year thing where you kind of gotta rebuild and figure out what this looks like without Brian Kelly, and maybe try to get Lane Kiffin in the building. Like that seems like that was also an influence of like when they got rid of him, or it's like be the first one to get him in the building to interview and like stuff like that. So we'll see what this actually looks like for LSU and its players. But you got to be disappointed if you're like Nick Anderson, you came over here in the transfer portal and you're expecting to have a really good season, and this like debacle happens, and it's like, man, I thought I was coming to LSU to be this next LSU wide receiver and be in the lineage of uh, the Jefferson and Chase and Brian Thomas and Neighbors and blah, 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 all down the line. So I don't know if the rest of the season is salvageable. I hope it is. These players deserve that, but it's a shame that this is how it went with this, Brian Kelly era that kind of felt doomed from the start.
Yeah, I agree. And unfortunately for a player like Aaron Nussmeier, like he's not going to get to see what the next era of this team looks like. So I think in his case, I mean, we'll see what the tape looks like at the end of the year, but it's been a really disappointing season for Nussmeier. I mean, he was a little bit of an enigma from 2024, but I think there was so many high level throws on his film, and this year it doesn't seem like it's all clicking for him, and who knows how much of that was influenced by the coaching and all of that this season. But the wide receivers in particular, that's one of those things where there is that lineage, like you talk about. We just had this with Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. It's not like this went away for years and years, but you have these players here now: Aaron Anderson, Barryon Brown, Nick Anderson. I mean, none of these guys have really stepped up either, and so it's just been a little bit of an interesting year for LSU and for these players too. So
Yeah, Kelly hasn't been able to keep coordinators in the building. Like these guys are leaving for maybe bigger and better jobs, or just different jobs in general. Like you talk about their OC when they had Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. That is not the person that's in the building now. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Mike Denbrook was their offensive coordinator at that point. Ended up leaving to Notre Dame to go be an offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. So like this is the kind of thing where it's like, oh, man, this is just a Brian Kelly problem. Like they are leaving schools where they have enjoyed success, where they had the best offense in the nation, and still are like, I'm going to split because I mean there's got to be some kind of culture problem. So yeah, hopefully a new era for LSU means a new era for these LSU players, so we can get back to what we're used to seeing, where these guys are pumping out high first round prospects and multiple high first round prospects on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
it's hard to call the call home bad news this week because it's very good news if you're an LSU fan. But regardless, let's keep the good news flowing, I suppose, as we gather around the campfire and reminisce about the campers of old on All Grown Up.
Robinson. Already one touchdown. Robinson's going to have two today. He's looking. He's throwing for the end zone. Fingertip grab. There's a clear.
Pushing first and goal. Jetty. So much power. He's going to bang it in.
I wanna have a conversation.
That's what we're here for. I have good news.
But here's the problem. It's a tough conversation. It's one where we might have to admit that we might have been wrong about something.
I don't like that.
Are you ready for this?
Unfortunately, yeah.
So I'm looking at 2 running backs this week. I'm looking at Kaleb Johnson and I'm looking at RJ Harvey. Okay, this was our big flag plant from last year. This was our big stand on the table. Kaleb Johnson is our guy. We're fading Harvey. Even after the draft capital, let's not get carried away with it. He's still RJ Harvey. And through 8 weeks of the NFL season, Harvey is coming off of arguably his best game. I mean, what did he have? Like 6 touches, 3 touchdowns, I think, or something. Like
I was just pulling it up. That feels right.
And meanwhile, Kaleb Johnson did not receive a snap this week. So these are 2 players at the absolute polar opposite ends of the spectrum at this exact moment in time. So what do you make of that right now?
Wow. What do I make of that? I feel like we're in a spot where, yes, RJ Harvey starting to maybe see a little more action in this Denver offense. Only had 8 touches in this game. That's fine, but when you turn 3 of them into touchdowns, it's like that's all you need. Like that's how you end up getting more touches. Versus the other side of the coin is Kaleb Johnson, who with every opportunity that he's had has not impressed this Pittsburgh offense, this Pittsburgh staff. Aaron Rodgers, like obviously this has not been an impressive start to Kaleb Johnson's season. And if it was, then you'd probably see him on the field. Like that's the simple thing. They aren't keeping, like you don't keep your good players benched for no reason. And maybe it is a Kyle Shanahan like Ayuk situation where you've messed up like the kickoff early in the season. He's had like a fumble and it's like you are, just benched. Like that's just what it is with you right now. And Jaylen Warren's playing fine. Kenneth Gainwell's playing fine. So there's no reason to like risk giving you touches. And that's not really a situation you want to be in for your entire rookie season, which it has been so far. So, I mean, I think you're feeling pretty good if you went Harvey over Kaleb Johnson right now. I think that's like not a hot take. I also think like Kaleb Johnson's career isn't over because he's had like a tumultuous rookie season and he's in the doghouse with Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers. Like I think both of those things can be true, but I think you can feel pretty comfortable if you ended up going RJ Harvey over Kaleb Johnson. And I have Kaleb Johnson. And I take my own advice here. I'm with you guys if you did the same thing. And I'm like, it'd be kind of nice to have RJ Harvey in my RB2 spot instead of Kaleb Johnson sitting on the bench right now, because you have to have him on your bench every week because he gets no snaps. So that's kind of where you're at. It's like, I know this is a patience game. I know this is a long-term game, but it hurts when your guy is literally doing nothing while other guys are getting this kind of opportunity, and you kind of try to plant your flag, and maybe the flag kind of fell over or like blew off of the flagpole.
So this is one of those situations for me where there is nuance required. to talk about this. Yeah, right? Like, how dare I say that? No, make a judgment, black and white. Harvey, good. Johnson, bad. There, I did it. RJ Harvey this season, I think it's very fair to say, has not lived up to the expectations that were placed on him by the people who saw the Broncos take him in the second round and thought he is their guy. Because J.K. Dobbins is the lead back on this team. So in that sense, RJ Harvey is not the player that a lot of people wanted to believe that he was. And I'm just talking about right now. I'm not saying that can't change, but I'm saying for 8 weeks, he has been clearly out of the picture. And this was a very encouraging week. Obviously, the big performance this week, but a lot of that on the back of touchdowns, which I'm not going to take away from him. The guy scored 3 touchdowns in an NFL game. Hell of a performance. But I mean, we're still looking at a player that's not, getting a ton of work on the ground yet. Again, can change. But so my point here is that Harvey is kind of in a sense where we would have expected him to be. Like the crux of our argument was not RJ Harvey is an unrosterable bad player. Like that was never what we were trying to say here. It was that the expectations of him were too high. And I think through 8 weeks, I think that was true. At the same time, I think we were probably too eager about Kaleb Johnson, and we had too high of expectations for Johnson. And I was very vocal about the fact that I didn't think a Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell backfield was going to present a significant threat to him, at least to the point where, like, by the middle of the season, we might start to see the workload shift. And in this case, we've seen the workload completely go away, disappear, and Warren and Gainwell have both been very serviceable, at least, and in some cases good. So I think this is a case of managing expectations with players. And I think in this case in particular, we see the effects of having too high of expectations on rookie players on both sides of the aisle. And now when we come together and talk about what does this mean from the greater Dynasty conversation, like Kaleb Johnson versus RJ Harvey moving forward. I mean, you said it. You have Kaleb Johnson. You'd like to have RJ Harvey right now. I, in my infinite stubbornness...
Hold on. I'm not saying I would trade. I'm saying, like, if I had RJ Harvey and not Kaleb Johnson, I would feel good right now.
Okay, I got you.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I was an RJ Harvey guy and I drafted RJ Harvey, I would be feeling better than, like, I feel right now with Kaleb Johnson. But I still feel better about Kaleb Johnson as a player than RJ Harvey, if that makes sense.
Yes. So that is where I am as well. And you may hear that, and you may be an RJ Harvey. You may have RJ Harvey, and you may think to yourself that is
is that a thing?
Yeah, you may be a Harvey head, and you may be thinking to yourself, you couldn't get me to trade Harvey for Johnson if you added a third. Like, I'm not doing.
If you added a first.
Yeah, I'm not taking that negative value. You keep that shit. But again, this is Dynasty, and I'm not going to throw away takes on a player in 8 weeks when you said, and I think you're right, he's in a doghouse right now. And that doghouse isn't going to last forever. And so maybe it doesn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen this season, but you better believe I still believe in this player moving forward in his NFL career.
Yeah, and I kind of think this is emblematic of the running back class as a whole. I feel like we get hung up on these guys that instantly produce and that instantly, like Omarion Hampton, who was incredible the first couple weeks. Ashton Genty, who's getting the volume that you want the first couple weeks. Judkins, who's getting the fantasy points that you want for the first couple weeks. And this is a player that I thought you were going to start with, Skattebo, who had incredible numbers the first few weeks of the season, and now is hurt. But I think that blinds you to the fact that Travion Henderson, who has been we talked about last week a little bit, where we are I don't know how I feel about, and now he's 10 carries for 75 yards on all these big gash plays, and it's that's exactly what we expect to see out of Travion Henderson week after week. And so I don't know how you end up feeling about these players in the long term, but I think we have to do an in memoriam for Skattebo real quick, whose foot was dangling off his leg in this last game that he had. Awesome player. You are a Skattebo, so maybe I can hand it over to you and you can say any final words you have about this player.
Well, I mean, yes, first and foremost, yeah, this sucks. I mean, it's awful when you see a young player producing, and obviously that is taken away, because it's fun when these guys come in and he looks like Arizona State Skattebo, and he was a guy that a lot of people wanted to stand on the table for, despite some of the kind of red flags in his evaluation. And I was one of those people that was I don't care. He's a guy that can play this position at a high level, and I truly believe that. And he was proving that at the NFL level. And this is the sort of injury that it's not just an injury, it's something that what player comes back when he gets back on the field, and who even knows when that is, because
they said he'll be back for off-season programs, which seems like a shocking timeline.
That's crazy to me, but these guys are freaks,
yeah.
And the modern medicine is performing miracles, it seems like, every day. But I also heard that this injury was way worse than it even it was worse than it even looked.
I heard that it was that he ruptured a tendon and dislocated the ankle and fractured his fibula. And then somebody was that's the best case scenario for this kind of injury. And it's that seems crazy to me, but the fact that he didn't injure, because the fibula is a non-load bearing bone in your leg, and you can play on a broken, people have played on a broken fibula, probably not the best. Terrell Owens, remember when he had the broken leg? It was a broken fibula. You don't technically it hurts hell, and these guys are superheroes, but you can play on that. Tearing the tendon, gonna happen. Your foot almost fell off. The dislocation, obvious, and then it was an open fracture, so it came out of the skin. We didn't get to see that, luckily, because he had socks and a shoe on. But apparently that's best case scenario for this kind of injury, where they basically just stitch the tendon back together, put your foot back in place, and then all that needs to heal is that tendon and then the non-load bearing bone, and then you're back. So I thought that sounded like good news to me.
Well, if that's the case, then yeah, it's horrible. And
yeah,
horrific,
it's horrifying and I'm sure traumatic, and I don't know how you trust yourself to get tackled ever again.
Yeah. Well, and a player that, already was not an explosive player, what goes away.
Is that a good thing though?
I mean, maybe it is.
Because he didn't rely. It's not and I won't say any names, but it's not one of these players that runs a 4-2 and kind of relies on that. Rather someone that is more of a plotter that relies on game sense and power. I feel maybe it'll be fine.
That's a good point. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what it looks like when he comes back. But for right now, it is really unfortunate, obviously, that anything like this ever happens to any player. But
It's the nature of the sport.
Yeah, that's it. And so to bring back some positive vibes,
Try to transition out of that.
I want to talk about Jaylin Noel because Jaylin Noel, big time, fans of Noel here at Camp Dynasty, and I mean, there were some conversations. Maybe even on the grill when our finale last year. I feel like there was a point in time where I was like, don't be surprised if Jaylin Noel is more productive than Jaden Higgins as a rookie. And I think we're maybe trending in that direction right now. We're seeing Jaylin Noel get unleashed a little bit more. We're seeing him win down the field, which is not surprising at all based on what he was doing at Iowa State. But we're seeing him build a rapport with CJ Stroud, and that's the big thing. And part of the reason that I talked about that, about Noel, even though he was picked around later, maybe he ends up being the more productive player, was because this offense has kind of been missing that like Tank Dell-esque presence and the role that Dell had in this offense. It kind of feels like Noel was a ripe pick to replace that. And Nico Collins has missed some time. Jaden Higgins has had his moments. Like it seems like both of them are going to be a good players for them behind Nico. But Noel, I think, is showing you now why his skill set was such a great match for this team, and why it seems like maybe he's in store for a big time second half.
Yeah, he's started to, he was playing punt returner for them early, so they kind of knew that they had a good dynamic athlete in this player, and maybe it just didn't have the space for him as a receiver on the offense. And on the grill, you talked about both of these players, and I mentioned like Christian Kirk in that conversation, and you're like, yeah, I'm sure he'll play for a couple weeks, and then they'll want to add a little juice to this offense. And it kind of seems like that's exactly what happened, where through 5 weeks this offense was kind of dead on arrival this season, where they can't even get Nico Collins going. He's been like a little bit hurt here and there too. And what are you gonna do? Like, what is your second option? And you drafted both of these players to be these dynamic playmakers, and finally we get Jaylin Noel stretching the field for this team. Average depth of target in these 2 weeks is about 16 on average, 15 on average, where he's getting the ball downfield on 13 targets here. So he's getting the ball downfield. He's getting the ball out of the slot. So he's not interfering with anything. That's another thing that you brought up with Jaylin Noel starting earlier than Higgins, is that Jaylin Noel is a natural fill in the slot position. He's a natural fill as a downfield receiver, which doesn't interfere with their already like established receiver in Nico Collins. And so maybe Higgins has a little more crossover with Collins, so it's harder to get him on the field at the same time. Noel has nothing. Like you said, that Tank Dell role where he can go downfield, he can get the ball in his hands. You can, they throw him these bombs that CJ Stroud loves to throw, that big post route he loves to go to. So, yeah, kind of opened up this offense for Houston, and is fun to see these young players enjoying some success early in their career.
I mean, honestly, it kind of feels like the future of this wide receiver room could be Nico, Noel, and Higgins.
Yeah.
But it's Higgins playing in the slot and Noel playing at the Z. And
I'd be
Collins,
interested in that.
Because I feel like the best that we've seen from Higgins thus far has been from the slot. And that's something that we talked about a lot through the process, was that it felt like he was, in fact, one of those bigger players that was going to be a more natural fit and a good fit for the slot role. So we'll see how that kind of materializes over the course of the season. But I want to throw a couple of names at you here in relation to Jaylin Noel. Tell me which one of these players you'd rather have. So how about Jaylin Noel or Stefon Diggs?
I mean, I would trade Stephon Diggs for Jaylin Noel.
You would trade away Diggs to get Noel?
Yeah, as somebody who has Diggs in like 2 leagues, why not? Diggs is like his job is getting taken by Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas in the aggregate. I don't know.
I agree with you.
He might be washed.
2 KTC choosers do not agree with us.
That's okay.
So that the point here is that I think there's some value still with Noel. I mean, he's having the breakout is kind of happening, but based on what I'm seeing here, people voting on this today, I think there's still some value here. I don't think Noel was a very notable name in the process. He was criminally underrated on KTC's rankings through the summer. And I think this is just a name that a lot of, more casual types of players are not super familiar with. So a guy that's having a few, he had like 70 yards or whatever, like
maybe you can sell high on that.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, exactly. They might not think he's an actual piece or whatever. I mean, if they drafted him, like I'm sure they probably thought something about him. But it's like, okay, how about this one? Jaylin Noel or Kaleb Johnson?
Oh God, diamond hands. Give me Kaleb Johnson.
Yeah, I agree. This person does not agree with us, though.
That's hard.
I know what you're going to say to this one, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. Jaylin Noel or Isaac Tesla?
They're right next to each other in the rankings, which I thought was notable. I'm going to go with Noel. But I know I saw somebody in a Tesla jersey in a Green Bay Chick-fil-A in a week that we didn't play the Lions. And I was like, all right, cool. That's awesome.
Sweet.
So there's fans out there at Tesla. I mean, he has some highlight reel plays in his career already, but yeah, I'll go Noel over him. I like Noel a lot.
See, Tesla does have the brand that Noel doesn't have, and then we have 2 KTCs here that are choosing Tesla over Noel. So I don't know. It's things like that where these are the sorts of players that maybe have a little bit of value if the guy who has them doesn't, or the person who has them doesn't really understand what they have.
I think our 100% of our listeners are male in our analytics. I know you said the person. I appreciate.
You are correct. I'm being inclusive of the entire Dynasty community.
Absolutely. So about the Dynasty community, should they be panicking about Matthew Golden?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Why not?
So this is a bit of a loaded question because if you listened to Camp Dynasty last year, you understand that we were not the biggest fans of Matthew Golden relative to where he was being talked about. That's always a very important element here. It's not like it was like, don't draft Golden with a 10-foot pole. It was like, I don't want to take Matthew Golden in the first round. I want to take him in the second round of my Dynasty rookie draft. And just because he went to the Packers, we became emotionally invested in the player. My emotional well-being is tied to his success as a player. So like I have to believe that he's going to be a good player. But I think what we've seen again through the first 8 weeks is not necessarily a surprise to me. I don't think that this player was the sort of guy that was going to come into the NFL and immediately light the sport on fire. And the jury is out on whether or not he will get to that, wide receiver 1 level that I think as, Packer fans you're hoping for, but certainly as somebody who believed in the talent and drafted him in the first round, certainly hoping that he is the answer at wide receiver 1 for this Packers team. But I think you and I, if we take our bias out of the equation, kind of looked at this like, yeah, he kind of slots right in aside the guys in this room. Like, I don't know that one of these guys stands out over another. And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing. I think Golden can continue to develop, obviously, and I would expect him to. So the very limited production, I would not expect to continue, for the rest of this I would hope for the rest of this season. But yeah, again, this is just another instance where I think the expectations may have been a little bit too high for the player.
Yeah, it was the whole narrative. Like, people liked Golden. It was the combine rose the stock, and then he became the first receiver to be taken by the Packers in the first round, in like however many years, 22 years or whatever. And I think the expectations got a little out of hand, like you said, where he's in this weird Packers offense. Like, I don't want anything to do with any of the receivers in the Packers offense. It has nothing to do with Matthew Golden. And it's because if you listen to every Jordan Love press conference, every Matt LaFleur press conference, they're like, we're not trying to get anybody the ball. Like, we're just, one game Wicks will have a big game. One game Watson will have a big game. One game Jay Reed will have a big game. One game Golden will have a big game. And that's just how it is. Like, it's just this. And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It's a bad thing for, like fantasy managers to try to decide who they're going to start. But it's just like, I don't expect to see any consistent play out of Golden, despite the like underlying metrics that are saying he's one of the best separators in the sport against man coverage. Like, cool, but if he doesn't get the ball, it doesn't matter. So like, Wicks had those separation stats for 2 years, and still like it doesn't translate into receptions and yards until they're getting targets. And so I think it's going to take a little while. Maybe, goes to California with Jordan Love in the offseason and does the thing and forges this, like, Devontae, Aaron Rodgers connection. But in this offense, I just don't see any of these players becoming a consistent, producer, I guess, in any case for fantasy.
Matthew Golden or Quentin Johnston?
Man, I thought Johnson was the one after a couple of weeks, and I don't know if I think McConkey and Keenan Allen have taken back over. I think I'd keep Golden. Okay, now I don't want either of them. Is that a bad thing?
Unanimous across multiple users that they are keeping Johnston over Golden.
Okay.
How about Matthew Golden or Ricky Pearsall?
I don't know if I love Ricky. I know that there's a lot of people that like Ricky Pearsall. I just don't think I'm one of those guys. So I think I'd go Golden there too.
I think I'd take Pearsall there.
That's fine.
But that's I mean, I would take Golden over Johnston. I want to make that clear. Last one, Matthew Golden or Matthew Golden or RJ Harvey?
I lean Harvey there.
Okay.
I like the insulation that the running back. It's so hard to find running backs, man. And RJ Harvey already has a 3-touchdown game in his career. Like, I don't know. Give me what I can get. Like, as much as I love Golden, all the concerns that I have still stand.
It is really hard to separate your thoughts about the prospect versus the Green Bay Packers player.
Yeah, like he's number 0, the first player to ever wear 0, the first round pick. He looks awesome every time he's like getting the ball. He's like been pretty clutch for this team on like 3rd downs, 4th downs. And I don't know. I would love to see him, get a ton of targets. I just don't think that that's the philosophy that like Matt LaFleur has for this offense. So I just don't know if that's the future that we're going to see for Matthew Golden.
As the biggest Matthew Golden hater on the planet or something like that, I think he's undervalued right now. Okay. I'll say it. Based on what I'm seeing on KTC, I think a lot of people are looking at this start and being like, it's over. Give me Quentin Johnston, who wasn't even worth a third when the season started.
It's true.
So, it's I'd be maybe buying Golden right now.
There we go. A golden buy.
Golden ticket.
Oh.
Whoa. All right. That is week 8 of the NFL and week 9 of college football. Like we said at the top, the 2026 draft class starting to form a little bit, starting to maybe become a little bit more exciting than we thought. Maybe those mid 26 firsts are starting to look kind of fun after all. And maybe, I don't know, we'll see. We got a little bit of time for those late firsts to maybe turn into something too. We'll see about that. But regardless, this has been a fun year. It's been fun to watch these kind of wide receivers that are emerging. This has been one of those very unpredictable years where guys are kind of coming out of the woodwork as the season is progressing, which makes it interesting.
It does. It makes it very interesting, and like the unpredictability of everything, and the amount of players that you could argue are at the bottom of this like first round. I think you can make arguments for like many of these players. I think it's going to add a lot to this discourse, which I'm sure we'll enjoy as this offseason comes, sooner rather than later.
It's going to be a get your guy class, and I
go.
love get your guy classes.
Amen.
So
that's where the money is made.
Amen to that. Like, give me that all day versus I guess I got to pick this guy here. Like, give me an 8-player tier and let me just do what I got to do. If you enjoyed our discussion this week, be sure to find us on Twitter, camp_dynasty, and TikTok, camp.dynasty. Most importantly, if you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and like this video because we very much appreciate it and it helps us quite a bit here. And also hit us up in the comments section. Let us know why we are still wrong about RJ Harvey and that we should be selling everything we have for him, including Kaleb Johnson. If you are listening on the pod feed, be sure to like, follow, and rate, and all of the podcast things that you can do. You can even leave a review if you want to.
You can comment on these things now.
You can leave a comment on Spotify. I will see it. Somehow. It's like it just like appears to me like an apparition. I'm not even sure how I get these comments, but I'll see them every once in a while. So, go for it. Try to talk to us there. We're always looking to hear what you guys have to say as well. So that's it.
That's it. I usually have like a thing to plug at the end of these or something
Yeah.
to say. But
Are there any big movies coming out? Any players
go
you want
see
to comp?
Begonia by Yorgos Lanthimos. Emma Stone is
Which
in that
26 player is the Emma Stone comp?
Jeremiah Love.
There it is.
She's our probably. I think she's one of the best actors, one of the best acting people alive right now. So give me Jeremiah Love.
There it is. 101.
Timothy
Emma
Chalamet
Stone.
is our Jordan Tyson.
Bang. What a draft class.
What a draft class.
Thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week, and we'll see you next week.